How's it going, folks? It's Rob here. Had a couple of friends in the Northern Hemisphere ask me what we're getting ready to plant out or sow out now that we're coming into our winter months. Really, we don't really have a winter as such as most people would know it. I'll post a few details up there, temperature-wise for you. We really don't get the chill that a lot of people get. We're pretty fortunate in that respect, and we can actually grow a fair few plants. Some people can only grow during summer. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a wander around the patch, just show you some things that I've tried to sneak in early and some things I have planned on the cards to go in. I've also got some seeds that I was intending to plant out today, but yeah, time just got away from me, so hopefully they'll go out tomorrow. But I'll give you a bit of a look at the packets anyway, just to give you some idea on what we're sowing out. So what I think we might do is we might go and have a wander around the front yard first, because the neighbour's doing some sanding in his shed and it gets rather loud, and then we'll come back out here and we'll have a bit of a wander around the back patch. Just a quick pit stop at the back stairs before we go out the front. I've sown out a whole heap of purple carrot seeds into this wicking barrel here. It was fed up a little while ago with some compost and some worm castings from Mr. Brian. Cheers, mate. Just sowed some out. I'll post a clip on them at a later date, just showing you the wet towel technique. There's been a bit of interest, so hopefully these guys will do rather well. There is another barrel next to it that had last year's garlic in it that is still in there. I was going to feed it up and plant this year's garlic in there as well, which is still vernalising in the freezer, but yeah, I think I might wait and pop them into some pouches rather than popping them back into this barrel. Might pop some onions or something else in there. So anyway, we'll keep wandering out the front. I know these guys aren't veggies, but we get these little crocuses pop up after a little bit of rain. Very pretty, just a little random patch in the middle of the yard. Just out the front here, I've only planted out a couple of beds. This first one here, it had the Aztec corn in it. I chopped all the corn down, fed up the bed with some compost and organic fertiliser, ran the corn stalks through a mulcher and put it back on top. Let it sit for a little while, and then this week I put in a 6-pack of broccoli. I just made a bit of a hole and put in a nice big handful of worm castings, plonked that in, and then planted the plants out on top. Made sure they're really firmly seated in there, and yeah, hopefully we'll get a decent crop of brassicas from this front yard patch again. Also got a bit of a surprise with all these corn coming up as well. I think there must have been a cob left on one of the plants, but the broccoli look to be doing all right at the moment. They were wilting, so I put this shade cover over the top just to give them a bit of protection, but we got 6 of them in there. So far the grasshoppers haven't found them, like the ones you'll see out the back in a minute, but yeah, hopefully they'll do all right in there. The only other bed that I've planted out the front here is this cauliflower one here. It's got a 6-pack of cauliflower seedlings in it as well. I could have started my own seed starts, but I just wanted to get an early jump on the season, so I've thrown these guys in there. Hopefully it won't be too hot and they'll do all right. We might shoot off down the back and have a wander through the hoop house. Just before we go down the back, just thought I'd show you my Christmas melons. I've got a couple of fruit on there, another one there, and one around the corner here. So hopefully we might have some winter melons. Before we head down the back, I thought I'd just show you a couple of starts and seeds I'd hopefully like to get out soon. These Roma tomatoes, they were supposed to go into the patch today, but I've had a few issues down in the hoop house I'll run through when we walk through, so they'll probably just be potted up until they're ready to go out. Over here I got some red salad onions. They're well and truly old enough to go out now. There's a couple of Brahmi seedlings down the base there. I don't know what I'll do with them. Over here we have some seeds. Just first though, I'd just like to thank Mr. Brendan from the Bacon Soda channel. Thank you very much, mate. He made me up a couple of dibbers. This is the small one, but you can see from the photo there how large the big one is compared with this. They're basically little handy tools you can use in the patch. They've got depth gauges on them. This one's got 20 mil or 3/4 inch, and the other one's got 50 mil or 2-inch little segments on it. They're just handy. I'll be using this one for sowing out seeds tomorrow, the larger one for putting out little seedling starts. You know, you could use a stick or you could use something handcrafted by a master. I know which one I prefer. So thank you very much, Brendan. You really did go above and beyond. They're beautiful little bits of artwork as far as I'm concerned, but you know, they've got the dual purpose of being functional as well, so I really do appreciate it. Thanks, mate. Now, just to run through the seeds here, we got the Florence fennel. I'm not going to plant a great deal of these guys, probably only 6 or so. Hopefully we'll do successive sowing, so we'll get a bit of a harvest through the season. Also got some dill from our own seeds that we've saved, some calendula, probably a little bit late to pop that in, but we'll see how we go. Some caraway, I'd like to grow our own for preserving. Also too, some lettuce, rabbit ear, so I've never tried that before, be interesting to see how that goes. Some of our own sunshine chilies. The plant at the back stairs is pretty much well done for, so I'm going to try and start off some of these seedlings now, just while we're still, you know, getting the 30-degree days, see if we can germinate some of these and baby them through winter. If nothing, you know, if we don't get a harvest, at least we got a head start for the next season. Some tomato black prince from Mr. Michael at Save Your Soil Permaculture. Thanks, mate. Some summertime gold tomatoes we've saved seeds from. These seeds came from Sleestack via Dale or Media Maker 2000. Check out both those channels, bit of a link over here for them. These tomatoes are supposed to be a nice large salad fruit, so we're going to try them. I've also got some mixed, I've also got some mixed tomatoes from A-Dub up in Canada. Thank you, mate. I just need to find the packet. They're mixed in with all my other tomatoes at the moment. They'll be going out this season too. Some brassicas, cauliflower violet Sicilian, and also some 60 days. We'll pop a couple of them out each, probably only 2 or 3 of each, and then we'll hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll successively sow through the season to get an ongoing harvest. The broccoli, I don't need to plant a lot of these guys out because you can continually harvest off the side shoot, so probably another 4 or 5 of these, and that's all we'll need for the season. Some slow bolt cabbage. This is basically your Chinese wombok style cabbage. We really like using these guys in salads. And some pak choi tender white. These guys hopefully will start off in little punnets and then they'll be moved over into the aquaponics system. So there you go, there's a bit of a roundup on the seeds. Now we'll duck on down the back before we lose the sunlight. Just down here in this root pouch garden, I tried to sneak in a couple of early snow peas, but I think this position is just far too exposed for them. You can see by the curling leaves, they're just not very happy. They were doing really well while we had a week or so of cooler temps, but as soon as it hit above 30 again, yeah, they started to get a little bit of wilt to their leaves. Just up towards the aquaponics here, I have a couple of others that were sown out at the same time. They didn't germinate as fast because this position's a little bit more sheltered, but the plants themselves actually do look a little bit healthier. The leaves really don't look like they've been affected by the heat at all, so fingers crossed we'll get some decent snap peas. We'll head off now into the hoop house. Just down in this bed here in the hoop house there was supposed to be 6 sugarloaf cabbages. Only 4 have survived so far. 2 are doing really well, and these 2 over on this side aren't doing much chop at all. I'm getting a lot of attack in here by grasshoppers. They're one insect that can crawl under the netting here. I had a couple of people around this morning, Kerry and Ray. G'day folks, nice to meet you. The 3 of us were running around the hoop house trying to catch grasshoppers, so feed them to the fish, but they're definitely doing a little bit of damage to these guys here. Over in this bed here, they've done a lot more damage to a few other plants. The broccoli, I showed these guys in the last clip. That's my last surviving plant in here. All the rest have pretty much all been smashed by the grasshoppers. So yeah, fingers crossed the brassicas we have out the front are going to do a lot better than in the hoop house here. In a week or so's time, I'm pretty much all going to lift all this netting anyway, and that'll let the little wrens in and other birds, and they can have a go at these grasshoppers. I came down here this morning to plant out my Roma tomatoes into this bed here. I was going to pop 4 in there, and I noticed that the mites that were on the tomatillo in there hadn't been kept in check, and also too a few that were on the peppers, sweet peppers and chilies down here. They've pretty much all gotten out of control as well. Even though I had treated them with insecticidal soap, I decided to pull them out of the patch, and they've been solarized, or they're being solarized and thrown into the compost. I just really don't want to plant out my tomatoes in here now just for them to be attacked by mites. I also took out, well, there's the worm castings I was going to put under them when I planted them. I also took out a whole heap of marigolds that were up this end here, and also to the wing bean that was climbing along there. Both of those plants showed sign of mite attack, so I figured I'm not going to risk it whatsoever. So it's probably a good thing, because up this end here where I pulled out the marigolds, it needs a bit of a compost treatment, I think, so I might feed up that end with a bit of compost. And for the time being, I'll just pot up the Roma tomato seedlings, and they can go out here in a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully, yeah, most of the mite infestation would have died back by then. So the aquaponics hasn't been sown out or planted out with any cool season crops yet. Fingers crossed the floating raft will be done soon enough and we can pop some pak choy, bok choy and lettuces and other greens in there. Just things that don't do too well during our summer. We can grow them in the floating raft in the aquaponics and get a bit of a harvest from them. But the rest of the plants, I'm pretty happy with the selection we got so far. I would have liked to start off a few more tomatoes to grow through the season, but yeah, that's, you know, just my fault for not being organised enough, I suppose. So I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of a wander through the patch here, just having a look at what we've sown and planted out for our cool season plants. Also, I hope you guys are a little bit more organised than myself and have your starts well and truly on the way. If this is the first time you've seen one of our clips and you enjoyed it, feel free to hit that little subscribe button up there and you can check a little box and you'll get an email every time we post a clip to YouTube. If you need some more convincing, a couple of thumbnails there for you to check out on different playlists. So I thought I'd just add on a little bit of vision of a visitor we had to the aquaponics here last weekend, so I sussed that out in a minute. I do hope everyone is well and happy, and I will catch you next weekend for another update from our little backyard patch. Cheers folks! Just came down to check up on the aquaponics and this little fella gave me a fright. He was slithering up the hoop right next to my head as I was walking in to check the sump tank. Just a little common green tree snake. Not as friendly and as sociable as the little carpet snakes that we get around here. You can sit down and watch them for a little while, but this guy is looking slightly agitated. So I've just followed him around to the other side of the grow bed here. I'm not too sure whether that taro is going to hold him though. We've seen a few of these guys come through the patch at different times. Pauline, our neighbour, actually saw a snake come into the yard the other day. This guy could have been him, hanging around and having a bit of a feast on lizards and frogs and whatnot. I suppose our little dragon babies, bearded dragon babies, might even be on the menu too. I don't think he's very sure-footed on that top hat. It's a bit hard for him to hang on to, I think. These guys are pretty harmless too for us. I mean, if they bite us, you know, they're not exactly right up there on the venomous scale. I think he's going to make a bolt for the mango tree up there. Come on, matey, you can do it. So he stretched from one end of that section to the other. So yeah, he's over 4 foot long. And he'll go up into the mango tree now, I dare say. You can get out that way, matey. Suppose I might just leave him alone, hey? Let him go on his own way. But I thought it might interest you folks. Cheers all! And off he goes into the tree. I can't even keep up with him, he's that fast. Suppose that's why they call them tree snakes.